Well, most of us remember where we were and what we were doing on September 11th, 2001. For two Golden Triangle leaders, the attacks that day hit close to home. WCBI's Parker King talked to them today about their memories. He joins us in the studio with his story. Parker.
At the time of the attack, MSU President Dr. Mark Keenum was working as Thad Cochran's chief of staff in Washington, and Mayor Lynn Spruill from Starkville was a pilot for Delta Airlines. The experiences they share are two of many in one of the darkest days in our nation's history.
That's a day I'll never forget for the rest of my life.
The morning of September 11th, 2001 began with a plane hitting the North Tower in New York City. For Dr. Mark Keenum and Mayor Lynn Spruill, their interpretations were similar.
At the time of the first attack that I saw on the television that morning, my first thought was, this is really a terrible accident.
Initially, I just thought someone had strayed into, restricted airspace and flown into a building, because it's happened in the past. Private pilots, particularly in a very congested atmosphere, which around New York City is very congested.
18 minutes later, that interpretation changed.
The second hit, you knew it was something else, so it quickly became something entirely different and something far more sinister.
I saw the second plane hit the second tower. I knew that this was no accident.
In Spruill's career as a pilot, this attack was something she had never seen before.
Before this happened, back when we were having hijackings, which we used to have, what the intent of the person who did the hijacking was to, fly me to Cuba, or fly me somewhere else, or to hold it hostage until they could get X. We never in our wildest imagination believed that we were going to find ourselves with someone who wanted to commit suicide and take everybody with them.
For Keenum, he was part of the first evacuation of the nation's capital since the War of 1812. He told us it normally took him 30 minutes to get home from work. That day, it took him 4 hours.
Right across the river, I could see the Pentagon, which had been attacked, and it was just pillars of fire and smoke that you could see for miles.
All Keenum could think of in that moment was his friend who worked in the Pentagon, Lieutenant Colonel Jerry Dickerson.
I was wondering about him and how he was doing in that situation, and unfortunately he was killed, and which was very tragic for me personally and for his family and for all of us.
16 years later, both Spruill and Keenum see this nation forever changed in both travel and everyday life.
Flying is still incredibly safe, and I think as we respond to all the situations that come our way and we tweak what we do to meet the situation, I think it's still the best way to travel.
How we travel, how we interact with other people, other nations. We're not the same country. It's not the same world anymore since 9/11/2001.
Both agree that even though this was a tragic event in our history, it brought together the nation.